Good morning. All right, so good morning. We have a few visitors from Vietnamese community, right? So did you come up from Brisbane? All right, so how long are you planning to stay with us today? Are you staying till lunch break or no plan? No plan. All right, because what's going to happen now, Geshe is going to give a Dharma talk till around just before 12. So I assume that you guys want to come up and offer a kata to Geshe. So I was wondering if you're planning to stay for the whole of the talk, then we can do it at the end. Or if you have some other things that you need to do and you will be leaving before that, then we can do it now. So what would you like to do? So we can. Would you like to come up now? All right, let's do it now. Yeah, you can come forward.
Yes.
So you can now offer the scarf to Geshe and we'll put it on your neck.
안디레티에니 먼저 첼레브 주스로
Mm.
아니 가다디 저는 스킬을 그대로 주스.
Yeah. So you can.
Okay.
Yeah. So Geshe is also giving some blessing with Lama Tsongkhapa's text, which is a presentation on the middling stages of the path of enlightenment. So you can come one by one and receive this blessing. So that's okay. I think that's finished.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here, next one can come. And you can stay here. At the end, we can take group photo with everyone.
nga zagwi siya dayo Martin. Thank you. Good. I'm good. Class.
All right. Thank you very much for that. So you can stay until, for however long you want. Would like to. All right. So we will start with Lama Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga. On the heart of the savior of the 100 deities of the Shita, on a peak of cloud resembling a clump of extremely white, fresh curd, King of Dharma, omniscient, Losum Drakpa, please come here together with your sons. In the sky before me, on lying throne, lotus and moon, my perfect pure Guru smiles with delight. Supreme fill of merit from my mind of faith, please abide for 100 eons to spread the teachings. Your holy mind is the intelligence that understands the full extent of objects to be known. Your holy speech, with its excellent explanations, is ornament of those of good fortune. Your holy body is radiantly beautiful with glory renown. To you are meaningful to see, hear, and remember are prostrate. Pleasant drinking water, various flowers, fragrant incenses, light, scented waters, and so forth. Oceans of cloud-like offerings, both actually arranged and mentally emanated, I offer to you the supreme field of merit. Whatever non-virtue of body, speech, and mind, especially those opposite to the three vows that were collected from beginningless time, I confess each and every one with fervent regret from my heart. You strive for much learning and practice in this degenerate age, made your freedoms and riches meaningful by abandoning the worldly concerns. Sever, we sincerely rejoice in your extensive deeds. Perfect pure holy gurus from the billion clouds of wisdom and compassion in the sky of the Dharmakaya. Please let fall a rain of fun and extensive Dharma upon the receptacle of those to be subdued exactly as they need. May whatever virtue I've collected benefited teachings and all transmigratory beings, and in particular may cause the essence of perfect pure loss and Drakpa's teachings to shine forever. Sa shi po ki ju shi be to tam ri ram ling shi ni de gen pa ni sang ye shin du mi te o wa yi ro ku na da Shin la chu pa shu. By the merits of having offered this mandala to Lama Tsongkhapa and his two sons, may I, my family members, and all sentient beings be able to meet, practice, and actualize the teachings of the victorious one, Losum Drakpa, who is the morality of an eminently pure way of life, was courageous in the extensive conduct of the sons of the victorious ones, and accomplished the yoga of two stages of supreme bliss and emptiness, Idang Guru Ratna Mandala Kamniyatayami. But the force of having fervently requested in this way, hollow beings of white light are emitted from the hearts of the perfect pure Father and Sons, and combining into one, enter my crown. White nectar, the color of milk, flows from the opening of two of white light, cleansing all my sicknesses, spirit harms, negative karmas, obscurations, and the imprints without exception. My body becomes as pure and clear as crystal. In page 13, we're going to recite Lama Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga verse Miksema 3 times. Nimetse wete chen chen rezi, jime kimbe wampo jambe yang, dupu malu jomze sanwe da, kanchen kimbe tsugyen tsongapa, lo san chabe shala sowa de, nimetse wete chen chen rezi, jime kimbe wampo jambe yang, dupu malu jomze sanwe da, kanchen kimbe tsugyen tsongapa, lo san chabe shala sowa de, Mime tsewe te chen chen rezi, jime kimbe wambo jampe ya, dubu malu jomze sanwe da, kanchen kebe tsugyen zonga pa, lo san trape shabla sowa de. Chemba jesha, this one.
Sangye chedan tsojin chonung la changju bardu dani kyab sunje dagi chushi yeban zeda rolan penshe sangye drupara sho. Sangye chedan tsojin chonung la changju bardu dani kyab sunje dagi chushi yeban zeda rolan penshe sangye drupara sho. Sangye chedan tsojin chonung la chanchu bardu dani kyabsun dagi chushi yeban zedagi drolan benchi sangye drupara sho. Kanki tuzini zone dawa tamche pambi chere tambi chun tenze kodam kela changze lo. Good morning, everyone. Dajidang anzu Lamrim samne ma share sirwa.
In the Friday morning teachings, we are looking at Lama Tsongkhapa's middling presentation of the states of the path of enlightenment, called in Tibetan the Lamrim. And we normally pick up from the point that we left off in the previous session.
Terdijidi dan jangu Lama Tsongkhapa chembe song chanju lamji rimba telaya ani chendi chongsum yores ta ding de an tanda kyanan zulaya ngansu gi chenlab shuzag chabe di ani jangu Lama Tsongkhapa chembe song met chong kyapur pagba tang unde thane ge sanji gu chug ta ne yong du dingi song di chagyores tianchik sozuge pilaya lomang rilaya number sanji gu chu jan janya tiachi ane gewe shinye samji mikeba tindilaya tu ane dansa chenpo nanalaya lo nyu saksam sajirinlaya hurta bata chen jani tan ngeba ngeba doche res inza tindi jinza ane sozo na tu gyundenge chabe di ane pek da za cheshu cheni ane nyagi yo di kyanan zulaya da chik chenlab kutsudu ane ngoto chiya chonga dea sozo ngane kawa sangbu shu chik tsigi yo sirwa.
So here in the Friday morning teachings, we are studying the middling presentation of the states of the path of enlightenment. So this text was composed by the great Tsongkhapa, who was a great Tibetan master. So Tsongkhapa composed different extents of presentations of the steps of the path of enlightenment. So there is an extensive presentation, which is called in Tibetan the Lamrim Chemo, the great exposition on the steps of the path of enlightenment. There is the middling presentation, which is what we study here. And there is also an abridged or condensed presentation of the steps of the path of enlightenment. So for our friends today from the Vietnamese community, Geshe gave some blessings with Lama Tsongkhapa's text, who contains this. So first of all, this presentation is an amazing presentation. It's kind of, you can say that it's an excelling presentation containing all the key points from the teachings that the Buddha gave. All of them are brought together into this presentation of the steps of the path of enlightenment. So it is an incredible text. Geshe studied he studied Buddhism for many years. He studied from inconceivable great spiritual teachers, from lamas. He lived at Seta Monastery in South India for a few decades, and there he conducted his studies. And having done that, Geshe can really appreciate the preciousness of Lama Tsongkhapa's presentation of the middling presentation of the steps of the path of enlightenment. This is indeed the most precious text.
당아도 넘버 산기별 야부치 제려야 송디게 따지 저자지여라서 저자디 네버도 몬트고야지 차샤스 간스나다 아주 남바이 슬라운데 페나가란 롬바 페로지나야 아니 마한체 미자체 고고게 남바이 슬라고르데이나야 망체지기 다 뒤즈여 말이라 아니 저 장기요 말아왔어. 저 마장디 저 뭐마디 다 신거 말아왔어. 마시디 저땅 근로당 소로지. 그런 잠블리 나물에 출루 mambo라 빼나 아니 남범 마탈고 힌두 출루라 소바. 아니 같이 출루라 소바. 이슈 출루라 소바 여러다. 출루 참말로 가지고 직접업 해야다. 차세야다. 물론 개야디 참마기 아니 치규로지 레도스 딘자데 딘디지 치규리 치포치캬 임바이나 믹스가 간조 넘버 7위 넘버 2비기다 믹스기다 고바 캬버 첸지 케 드루 마르와스로 딘자 넘버 2비 고바 캬버 첸지 요고 거레스다 메나 간조 응알이 총잡이 줄루 다가란 땐데는 디고르다 디고 고바 캬버 첸지 요바디 아니 추자니 남비 추자니 신고야지 레샤 모두 말로 기압니 초보편이 아니 지금 넘버 약부 차야세디 오늘 하는 여사 말했어. 딩아주 쌤을 샤고야 기체슈직 들으셨어.
So then, if we want to become good Buddhist practitioners, then we'll look at teachings like that, and we'll look at the subject matter of teaching such as this, and we need to understand what the subject matter is. What is the teaching such as this? What are they teaching us? So in order to understand that, we need to, you can say, to be introduced to those teachings, to study them, to be introduced to them in order to understand what the subject matter of the teaching is. So for example, in Tibetan society, most people are Buddhists. You can say that probably 99% of Tibetan population is a Buddhist population, Buddhist followers. And yet most of them, you can say that are not informed practitioner, either that they have no time to study or that in general they don't study. So therefore, although most Tibetans regard themselves as Buddhists, still in terms of understanding Buddhism, understanding Buddhist practice, not many have an understanding of Buddhism or Buddhist practice. So there are many religions, many spiritual traditions that have evolved around the world. Some of them predates the Buddhist tradition. Like, for example, when you look at some Hindu traditions that exist now, that some of them predate the Buddhist tradition. There are some other traditions that arose after that, Christianity, Islam, and so forth. So when you look at the commonalities of many of those spiritual traditions and religions, you find that there are some practices that are seemingly the same or share similarities, like, for example, bowing down, making offerings, doing some prayers or recitations, and so forth. So while you could say that some of those practices are seemingly the same, if indeed all of them were exactly the same, there would be no special purpose for following the Buddhist tradition. But if you do think that this is what I want to do, I want to follow the Buddhist tradition, then you need to understand what your own special purpose is in doing so. And to understand that special purpose that you find in following this tradition, you will understand that if you become informed through studying, right? So you need to study in order to understand what is the special purpose that you get in doing so. Which means that if you just suffice with following those common practices of bowing down or saying prayers, doing some recitations, making offerings, and so forth, it's not really going to cut it in terms of understanding what the special purpose is. In order to understand the special purpose, for that we need first to study.
chanjo lamrim drink ton tang anju chenleb shu barasro chenleb shu dige zawi chenleb yaji jadam ba yor pendo yor wasta ro ka sambu shu jro ta anju sambu chi tang ba na anju lomba di nang la ya mi ja che gu chu ko tang ge chagbi di su su go la sha ya pha sha ni sen zam ya tönyo yo ji mares ta dindri chi gi ni anju burd thani ani 장관로 중가 버치면 송 전랍진 디 안직 수수 골라샤치니 아니 대바치 주청한디 까와 몽불 사비기 게zal 때니 총샤버치 야시야 담바 차고로스로.
And particularly when we think of Lama Tsongkhapa's middling presentation of the steps of the path of enlightenment. So Geshe have given some blessings with that book. So you can say that definitely 100% there are blessings in doing so. Definitely 100% there is some benefit in so doing. After all, when we think of, for example, this particular point in time in this place, you can say Australia, let alone being able to receive the dark blessings from the text, Geshe reckons that most people, probably more than 19% of the people, haven't even heard the name, the middling presentation for the steps of the path of enlightenment, or in Tibetan, Lamrim Jing. So our situation is different. You can say that we've emerged from that situation. We had the opportunity to do so. So we have the opportunity to receive to encounter this text, these teachings of Lama Tsongkhapa. We might even get some blessings from that. And you can say that being able to emerge from, you can say, kind of common society, and being able to have that is a result of roots of virtues that we have accumulated over many eons.
Chenlab Chembu Shuji Kaburada, the Chenlab Yashudi, Di Namolaya, Karsondu, Di Shinro, Di Shini, and Semgulia, Chenlab Jugach, Yongo, that Chenlab di Parche said there was on the Samalota, and in Doya de Parche Doyat, Suzu Parche Doya, and the GP, Dingin Pusum Soba, Yoyag Chedu, that Chenlab Shu, that Gunjolaya. 아니 소왔다고 그러더라. 다 발치 아니 체슈디 가래 아니 뉴문 독섬 세트. 뉴문 독섬 용으로 줘야게 아니 게인지 쳐봐이나 디 칠라브레스. 디 발치 도고 뉴문 독섬 용 줘는데 텔레템비게 차만디비게 아니 고망부 쇼진 가르원자 발치 도바레스. 발치 도바. 디 용야라야다 아니 송 디나라도 송비기 쪼디 피게 년중 아니 장주그셈 아니 양답이 따와 람지 쪼 남섬디 쪼 원트고야지 딩 원트바나 아니 장규라이 펜바 진로이 여바 쪼 딘지레도 아스라.
So then receive such blessings, and Geshe's blessing us on the head with this text. So if you think of the best blessings that we can get, it's not just kind of this text touching our head. It's hard to expect that the best blessings that we could ever get would be simply begotten by bonking the text on our head. So I don't know, maybe that's the best way of saying that, bonking the text on the head. Anyway, so it's hard to so it's hard to think that that's the best blessing that we could get. The best blessing that we could get would come from studying this text and thereby developing an understanding of the states of the path of enlightenment. After all, when we think of the purpose of receiving blessings, the purpose of receiving blessings is to overcome obstacles, to turn back obstacles. So then, in terms of not only we want to receive blessings in order to overcome obstacles, but also to find the best conditions or supportive conditions for attaining what we wish for. So then we request blessings in order to be able to do that. And when we think of our way of encountering obstacles, the greatest obstacle would be our own afflictive states of mind, the three poisons: anger, attachment, and ignorance. So then if you reduce the conditions that give rise to those three mental poisons, anger, attachment, and ignorance, so if we eliminate those conditions, if we reduce those conditions, we will overcome our obstacles. So for that, in order to be able to reduce the obstacles for our own afflictive states of mind, anger, attachment, and ignorance, we study. We develop knowledge. We study the three principal aspects of the path: the determination to live cyclic existence, the mind of enlightenment, and the correct view. So for that, now we study, we are introduced to that, and we get the benefit from that in terms of reducing those conditions that give rise to our own afflictive states of mind. And as such, you can say that this is the best blessing that we can get. De la gola de chiksha de la kala gore. Is that just like the cancer that was here?
Okay,
Yes, I was asking what's the deal with the bonking, but anyway. Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Thank you.
어디래다 딘자 다주 대치장 안주다 남바임비 그들주디 남비 추디 가리메 라 남비 추디 가리메디 무엇인 거야 빼면서 계신보 라 남비 추 짜와디 장발에도 왔어 장발 안 딜이야 촉 아니 셔럽 손드 정디 되니 다 심전 탐치기 대두 삼토야지 심전 탐질이야 편도치비 니버전토야지 디 남비추그다 계주 연하면은 데레스로.
And in relation to that, we need to think of what the purpose is of the Buddha Dharma. What is the purpose of the Buddha Dharma? This is really important. The root of the Buddha Dharma is love and concern for others. And it is assisted by wisdom. So we regard all sentient beings, and we think of what would be beneficial for all sentient beings.
And dindrigi kebar pe sosu tadun zendenge dimi yungo arsta kashi and teba chimbi chu seondi and the lola mashoma dindri yungo arda ine only teba chimbi chu ngonju trebana and chom dindigi chu di 아니 캐버드 파베 파출라는 왜 어디 안 대바침비 치고 돈다 땡구 여러 왔으라 근데 저다 백해침부 직차가 도스라.
So we spoke of compassion. We speak about it in relation to the three different levels in the teachings that the Buddha gave. So we have you can say three levels to the Dharma will, sorry, three levels to the teachings that the Buddha gave, and the Dharma will of the Mahayana is regarded as the highest one. So the Buddha gave different teachings on the Mahayana system, the Hinayana or the Theravada system. And while there are differences in terms of the philosophical ideas or views held by those different traditions, some you can say that can not even get the head around the teachings that the Buddha gave on the Mahayana, that for us constitute really important set of teachings.
Terdezda dinima 가정 참드네마 슈기스 가정 아주 다 깨운 린다 토모위 람지 럼바 정원디 시에스마 데린 고조서디 대단 코위 님이 권하조 느교진도 공발레 시바탐지 멤버위 롱턴 통디 뉴무다 동안 녀와시위 타와 라 톰두기 이꾼도 동와티 람라바숨라 람나 코발리 트위 타와 톱지 대야 토르기 빠르터 할 도바야 마이 메 웬냐 견세보다 연대 터바 초르와 임베 란도 마졸라 대니기나 현대야 니세와 세지 탈 산지 이꼴니 티진도 주고베나 로단 댐반남기 토만니 티진도 주고 리데 발신 뒤발레 지된 된줍슬런 투메비 대번 님보 땐도 빵체시 튕길 대번 힌지 땜발라 젠던 로지 란진 대단주 제소스.
So today we're going to begin with the sets of persons of great capacity. So in the previous session we finished looking at the sets of persons of medium capacity, and in beginning this section today, let's read the first paragraph. Entering the great vehicle, how to train the mind in the sets of the path of persons of great capacity. Through meditating in this manner on the faults of cyclic existence from different perspectives over a long time, you will see all existence as a pit of blazing fire. Your mind will be thoroughly overcome by the desire to attain liberation that completely pacifies suffering. If because of that you train in the three trainings, you will attain liberation that is freedom from cyclic existence. And that will not even be reversible, unlike the splendors of high rebirths. Nonetheless, extinguishing one's own faults and achieving excellent qualities will be limited, and your own welfare will not be complete. For that very reason, you will temporarily neglect the welfare of others. In the end, you will be urged by the Buddhas and have to enter the Mahayana. Therefore, the intelligent enter the Mahayana from the start. The companion of the perfection says, those whose nature is of one taste with altruism, abandon forever those two vehicles and have no power to bring about all the world's aims, and enter the vehicle that the victorious sage taught out of compassion.
어디래다 니나노야 고당부디 개침부 직차도 왔어. 대단 코위님이 권하존 규린도 검거래 송디 코위님이 세디 코위님이 가르레스 코와 가르레스 딩님이 가르레스디 디 코왕 뭐 맞으나 아니 코위님이 통고 말아왔어. 코위님이 만도나 코위님이 권하존이 가르 검거다 검에스케라고 말았어.
At the beginning of this section, Lama Tsongkhapa says the following thing. Through meditating in this manner on the faults of cyclic existence from different perspectives over a long time, you will see all existence as a pit of blazing fire. So there are two important points that come up in this section: samsara and the faults of samsara. So without understanding what samsara is, we'll not be able to identify the faults of samsara. Right, so in order to think of the faults of samsara, the drawbacks of cyclic existence, we not only need to recognize them, but we also need to recognize what samsara is. And we need to do it from different perspectives over a long time.
그래서 대해서 다 당분 코로와서야 돼. 코로와서야 돼. 코라자에 된다더라다. 코라자에 대한 지피다. 개월이야. 기치진. 다 코라자에 돼. 코르세 치코랑 간다디 안 디레샤스. 다딘 점기 코와 차그레스나. 다 차금도 왔어. 대점기 다 가르고 그랬을라운디. 딘티기 kiến 용해야 돼. 레다 뉴몬비 샤원도 켜봤대. 레다 뉴몬비 샤원도 손에 아니 깬치 쳐봤대. 더 콜와레샤스. 콜와스는 디레샤스로.
So we speak of samsara, or here in the text, it is translated as cyclic existence, which means that it is a state in which we go round and round and round through birth and death and birth and death and so on and so forth. So this is simply that is not simply understanding that is not enough to understand what cyclic existence is. To understand what cyclic existence is, we need to understand how through karma and afflictive states of mind, we find ourselves without having control again and again in the process of birth and death and birth and death. So we cycle in this samsaric state, in cyclic existence, not because we have control, but because we are under the control of karma and afflictions. So birth and death under the control of karma and affliction is what samsara is.
그래서 네가 되게 예민로디 되게 예민디 그 레뇽기 샤원도 켜봤대. 레뇽기 샤원도 송바디 거의 예민이래서 다 레뇽기 샤원도 송자에 jelaya 아니 켄칠이야 다 라마메와치. 켄칠라 라마메와. 치땅기 깨와다 치와세디 그 유진 셴라 뜨네 켄치 제거래 아니 라마메바레디냐 갑디 켄칠라 라마메사디 레뇽기 샤원도 송바디 더 독슈드 차가도스로 규는 깬라 때는 규위 랑신 쟁바디 그 춘이 디 점기 아니 그 니미스키 연구요 사마레스 연구요 말아서로 다 레다 뉴무비 샤원도 켜바디 자위기 깬치티 규견라 때는 연구요 봐 라마메바 간라야 아니 간줄이야 퇴베디 아니 다 책이 로 네거기 뉴몬빌 샤원도 켜봤다 도시도 차고 살았어 로 뉴몬비 샤원도 마송바 뉴몬비 샤원도 마송바 아니 켄칠이야 라원 토야지 야시야도 요살했어 로디 총바이나 아니 타르바 토브세야디 레뇽기 샤원도 송이 깨발 켄칠이 탈바인자 아니 타르바 토브스 어 딘리지 송도 왔어
In cyclic existence, our birth and death that go around and run and run are controlled by karma and afflictions. And this is the fault of cyclic existence, not having control by being under the power of something else, being under the power of karma and afflictive states of mind. And due to being under the control, under the power of karma and afflictive states of mind, we have no control over birth and death. So birth and death are controlled by cause and conditions. They occur because of cause and conditions. And while you can look at the variety of cause and conditions that control the process of birth and the process of death, you can see that there are actually many cause and conditions involved in those two processes of birth and death. Still, the worst sets of cause and conditions, of those different cause and conditions, the worst one are karma and afflictive states of mind. So when we look at birth and death and how they are controlled by karma, by cause and conditions, we can understand how we have no control. There's so many cause and conditions that play a role in birth and death. So you come to see that we have no control over that process. But still, the worst situation in which we lack any sense of control is attributed to being under the control of karma and afflictions. And understanding that, you can also understand that if you want to attain freedom from that cycle of birth and death, which you go through without having any sense of control, what you need to put a stop to is karma and afflictions. If you put a stop to birth and death, which are under the control of karma and afflictions, you will attain the state of liberation. Liberation, right? So if we think, I want to be liberated from samsara, this is my aim, to be liberated from samsara. To be liberated from samsara, we need to be liberated from birth and death, which occur under the control of karma and afflictions.
Sigvatamji member was on this, Sigvati Corvares. The Corvi Nanolaya, member of Nanshingi, Kazikota, and the Dunga Gimacheta, the Yungioras, that dig Zavadi, and Numumbati, Numumbigi, Shaman the Cuba Telteni, and Mundebata, and a Charnaja Pabde Yongati. Or Dindig that Dungardi, never she, Tava Tobala, Tomduki, the good Dongatis. The same thing that Nanzugi Genchi de Nyumbi Shaman to Kurni Yobati, Le Tanduk Samba Chuma Mayan Batelia, Tarotinic laws. That Dindig law the shook Chembo Leondi, then Numu Taria Numumbali Tarvig, Tablea, Taptilea, Lagures, Tap Paradise Landi, Lam Lavasum Lavni, call it true. Tabatogre said. Lam Lavasumaya, Lapsuti. The Diniongo does Kanji Ninjong Sambi Konelani, and Lam Lavasumaya, Labigi, and Lotilea, that lams, Tabatubi lams, D. That did it. That Lavasum, Namjunga to drink lava, things in lava, Sherry Lavasum, or delay Lago does.
So here Lama Tsongkhapa says, through meditating in this manner on the faults of cyclic existence from different perspectives over a long time, you will see all existence as a pit of blazing fire. Your mind will be thoroughly overcome by the desire to attain the liberation that completely pacifies suffering. So you will see samsara is a burning pit of fire in which you're continuously, it's like a continuous flow of suffering. And that continuous flow of suffering is controlled by karma and afflictions. And due to being under the control of karma and afflictions, suffering falls down on us like rain. So then when you understand that process, that situation where we're under the power of afflictions, you, without any control, take birth and death in that long cycle, an uncontrived wish to emerge from that state arises from your mind. Uncontrived determination to be free, to attain the state of liberation. And when a strong determination to live cyclic existence, to emerge from cyclic existence arises in your mind, you begin the training, you take up the training in the 3 trainings, which is the method for becoming liberated from samsara. So motivated by renunciation, you train in the 3 trainings. You train in the path of the 3 trainings. So the 3 trainings constitute the path that leads to the state of liberation from our samsaric state. So motivated by the determination to live cyclic existence, we're training the training of concentration, the training in ethics, the training in concentration, and the training in wisdom.
Dinza, Dungar Gitsawata, Numu Tusum said, Numu Tusum Nimbude, and Lam Lavasum Lay Lavakoya. That Lam Lavasum Lay Lavin ne, and Tintigi, that Lam de, and Rang Kovale, Rang Numumbale, Tandug Konelani, Lavasum Lavaina, D, and table members and give drink somebody, Chagdos. The Ramdun la mi wainza, Ram mi gerba chila mi wainza, mi you the Jashinjoin, but the Jazigata Maras. The did some good jigmentos. 아니 간저 대원 되버다 동안 문제 바디 도르투 탐칠로다 치규린자 아니 간저 탐 상물로야 비게 미니 아니 대원 되버다 동안 문제 비 삼바시 끼고도스 다 디키야디 탐치 대원 되버다 동안 문제 바 임번 통운디 탐치 동안 되잖아 찌마로 냠비게 로디 키 초바치 키 외바치 키 고바진자 텔라브 고레슬라운디 티로 디 삼바딜야 안 테바 침비기다 릭세바 로 테바 침비게 로종 텔야 단 로그도 아스라
The root of samsara are the three poisonous afflictions: anger, attachment, and ignorance. And the path that leads to freedom from that is the path of the three trainings. So then in terms of one's motivation, if you think about it in relation to your own afflictions, if you think that I'm following the path of the three trainings in order to become liberated from my own three afflictions alone, this is a Hinayana orientation. And this is in line with the sense of the path of the medium scope, which means that you're seeking to attain your own purpose, to fulfill your own purpose. In that sense, your objective is smaller or kind of more limited. Whereas when we think of not only ourselves wanting to be happy and wanting to be free from suffering, but all living beings of the 6 realms of existence are exactly the same in seeking happiness and well-being and wanting to avoid suffering and pain, then you can then change your focus to think that for the sake of all of us, all living beings, myself and others, for the sake of all of us who are seeking happiness and well-being and wanting to avoid suffering, may all sentient beings have happiness, and because of happiness, may all of them be free from suffering. And I will make that come to pass. I will do it by myself. This, when you start thinking about it like that, then you activate your Mahayana lineage. You activate your Mahayana lineage, you activate your Buddha potential when you think that may all sentient beings have happiness, may all of them will be free from suffering. I need to ensure that all sentient beings abide in happiness and are free from suffering. This is the way that we activate the Buddha lineage.
어디다 디 임바디 단 디니 참든 데나 깨우 남기 대와당 제바당 깨우 짤네 통사 단지 참 젠든 코드 캐발라 차와릭디스 당간주 원이 다 지금 미기 셀다 초도 줘바디 얘는 젠든 코드 캐바들래 아 릭디스 잔든 참라 미반네 돈로라야 토모와 임비체로스 란든 참 드려야디 아니 돈좀 무슨 순전네 란든 좀 두고라서라 그래서 디 미치기 아니 란든 슈지 드바이나 코야야 남주전의 슈지 이다 임비 뒤차고 말했어 그래서 디 돈로다 요레스 무슨 요레스 뭐 조마잖아 수수 된다디베 이야 다주 두고라다 데사이나 가리나 사야이나 비다 셴발라 빠지 투바자이나 가리나 무조건 순전히 다 두고도 왔어라디 야지야다 맞으러왔어 디 마힘바 셴 심전 탐지기 대된래야 미니 상로 땅 퉁이지 바나 단 남주 풀도 총아리스 약슈디 테레스
So then Lama Tsongkhapa says the happiness, magnificence, and capacity of beings is to take the responsibility for the welfare of others. So in that sense, you can say that the best way to fulfill your capacities to attain that sense of magnificence is to take the burden, the responsibility for the welfare of others, because to observe only one's own welfare is something even animals do. Even as far as you can think of insects, even they can do it, even they know how to do it. You can think of our current situation where we we're endowed with that human intelligence. So if we take care only of ourselves, if we're only interested in fulfilling our own purpose, it will not be utilizing the intellectual capacity that we have now as human beings. You can see that in animal behavior, or insect behavior, even insofar as ants. You can see how, just like us, they also are capable of obtaining food and obtaining shelter, in fighting with rivals and so forth. So if we behave in a similar way, in using our intelligence only to do that, then that would be wasteful. The best way that we can use our intelligence as human beings is to take upon ourselves the responsibility for the welfare of others.
디시르 첨본 남기 감술네스다 대부 첨부 감술니 젠기 펜델라 타주도 쇼인데 로딩리 신도 니리 장감 같다 축냐 라니사 신도 콤베 동 주식 니나 가군 통 드나 개우 현준 제바 저버 카인바 텐디 제바인데 대디 개우 짤된 팍 님말랍친 따슌교와 한시 강인다 쿨람미직 사인직된 대박 강인데 란된감에 첨본남기 란신 텐더때 대단 직된 편다 대위로라 직두쇼 셰소스.
Therefore, the natural disposition of great beings is to categorically strive for the benefit and happiness of others. Led to a student says, when cattle see a mouthful of grass that is easy to get, they eat it themselves. When they are greatly tormented by thirst and find some water, they drink it with relish. Here, whoever makes efforts to bring about the welfare of other beings is magnificent and excels in the skills of great happy individuals. Traveling, riding across the sky, the powerful sun illuminates all. Regardless of the burden, the earth supports the world with everything in it. Those without the least self-interest, equal in nature to great beings, totally strive for that singular taste of benefit and joy for the world.
대령한주 남주슬라온디 무유 네술이야 따투잉에딜이야 남주슬라고 그러더라. 아니 민국을 땅에 디 무유 네술던 통구요 말았더라. 디 남주 말어 디 말아버렸더라. 진짜 남주 세디 무유 네술. 무유 네술 가르쳐 버렸어. 니 로르 주걸로 대바다 동아면 대바 지기인 바데 무유 네술인자 텔야 따투고 봐야나 남주레스. 텔야 따투고 남주레스. 저 대바 챔비기 기브속이 무유 네술 텔야 시니 텔 빠비게 아니 삼로탄 레가치는 존이 민 대바 챔보세 변달아야 오늘 자네기다 남주진 기우 차기도 왔어요.
So we mentioned our ability to use our intelligence as human beings. Now, when we speak of intelligence, what we refer to in a particular sense is the ability to see reality. So someone that is acting in a way that is deceitful, deceiving others. So someone that behaves in that way, it's not something that it's not someone that is a smart person. It's not a type of behavior that accords with reality. To be intelligent in understanding reality, seeing reality, is to recognize the equality of all sentient beings in terms of seeking happiness and well-being and wanting to avoid suffering. So if you recognize that equality, it means that you're a smart person, you're an intelligent person. And in terms of the great vehicle, the Mahayana, the great vehicle, recognizes that reality of the equality of all living beings in terms of seeking happiness and well-being and wanting to avoid suffering.
대다른 로와 동아리 콘도던 통네스 그런 로지주 담제다 뉴문비 샤원도 kör네 아니 동아리다 뒤콘도던 통네 디 텐도 차발이야 개우시샬라 케바 shekyang tela chadi tinyeles jigdem mari tunji chigbi draw true girba dungar merem barwe nandu omel hontong ne tolla mechem barbata yingde zemba kan dana teda gewindi kebon teda in shesos.
That being so, Lama Tsongkhapa says, those who see how sentient beings everywhere are tormented by suffering and who toil for their welfare are called persons of great capacity or the wise. The same text says, those who have seen sentient beings confused by dense gray clouds of worldly ignorance as they fall without control into the blazing fire of suffering, and who mentally toil and exert themselves for them as if fire were blazing overhead. Now they are great beings. They are also the wise.
Teacher Ranshingi Leva Tamji Johnne, Goba Tamji Seve Me, Kibi Kew Kunji Drubi Lamchembo, Tondu Teraki Yang, Draw Kunji Sus Kurba, Jendun du Shubi, Random Mansa Meva Shell Drubi, Tamki Chembo the Dembi, Tijan and Jutu Yobani, Kemao, Dagi, Neba, Leber Niedu, Yam the Samla, Kiwitsal Chioji, Tebi Chok, Dhurun Juber Chaos.
There exists an entrance way to the Mahayana that possesses the great skillful means that's such that by working for the welfare of others, you accomplish your own welfare without any incompleteness. The Mahayana is the source of all your own and others' excellence, the medicine removing all degeneration, and the great path traveled by all wise beings that nurtures and nourishes all beings through seeing, hearing, remembering, and touching. Engage in this best of vehicles with whatever ability of a great being you have, and think, oh, I've found exactly what I was looking for. Now, one thing that we need to understand is that the Mahayana Dharma does not accomplish something that does not agree with reality. It's not that we're dealing with something which is totally fictional in a sense that it does not agree with reality and we are accomplishing something that is fictional. This is certainly not the point.
And midsummer, but with Tundusum, Business Devana, Kunzu, Devan Dugu Yabata, Dungan Dugu Mebadi, Pigi, Chavachetan Koran, then Port to Yajrendos. In the Tindig Muyon to Tetan Timbitoni, Tamchig Dedulaya, and in Julia did the Tebachimbu Lams, Tebachimbuta, and it Chura Dires.
So then in terms of understanding or identifying what reality is, for example, the equality of all sentient beings in terms of seeking happiness and well-being and wanting to avoid suffering and pain. And we come to see that, we come to understand that through thinking about it, through analyzing or investigating it. And we can see that it is not only valid for human beings, but it also the same for other living beings, even insofar as insects. When you look at what they do, when you look at the form of behavior, you can also infer through your analysis that they're also just like us. They're seeking happiness or well-being and wanting to avoid suffering and pain. And therefore, the engagement in the Mahayana path is engaging in a path that leads to the happiness or well-being of everyone, of all living beings.
아니 대부천주 총성계 추줄디 시자사 쪼디 아니 다 먼저 Doridugi, that's Samgum layer, Samgum layer, Linkiki, P. Samgum layer, carry over Tishilashani. Tishilashani, then the any Chutten Shawai or Digital was Chutten Shawachi.
So in relation to that, we have here teachings on the status of the path of the small, middling, and great scope beings. And those teachings correspond to the to all living beings of the 6 realms of existence. It corresponds to their innate mentality.
There the Dunga Mundebainza, any Dungar di Musong Godanda, Kishimbu shows on the Dungar Musong Godant. Rangan Dungar Musong, Manzumanchia, Dungar di P. Chegum down, Sadana Sobi, Chick Lulaya, and Medivi, Nazala Soba, Tindigi Chick, Dungangu at some Dobe, tell it Tabigi, Dungarch, Yabadi, and Tanganzunzi Tuyomaros, that Ding Munzi Chiguedi, and it's Sanji with churching in Julia, Metamich. The dish on the P, the one day Chamanti with Zawadi, Dungar Zawadi, and Chadamosong Chigaba. Two Chion the Dutch Dungargin Jorum Korangotoni, Soundotani, and one shooting Sabuchiadi, the Dire was raw, other Chigmalam Yari, Sanga Diary, Chapio Chu Kazus Chedeva in Bainaya. Kunjung down Dungargin Jorum Gutolaya, and it's Chebaj Machi Pardo, Chu Namdaji Jajada Yungu Samares.
So all sentient beings, we said, are equal in not wanting happiness, not wanting suffering, not wishing for suffering and pain. So it's really important to recognize what suffering is. For us, mostly when we think of suffering, what we think of are things such as hunger or thirst, experiences of heat or cold, some physical pain, becoming sick, and so forth. This is, for most of us, what we think of when we think of suffering, which means that we're not able to recognize a greater degree, to have a greater recognition of what constitutes suffering. So in the Buddha's teachings, when we look at how suffering is described, the greater understanding of what constitutes suffering is the understanding of how the different levels of suffering arise from certain origins, which are anger, attachment, and ignorance, the 3 poisonous afflictions. So these poisonous afflictions, the 3 poisons, anger, attachment, and ignorance, are those who, in sequence, create the different degrees of sufferings that we experience, and that understanding becomes very profound. So then when we look at our Buddhist practice, we might be saying prayers, we might be doing some recitations, we might be reciting mantras and so forth, but really without understanding the origins of our suffering, without understanding the stages by which we end up experiencing suffering, and also addressing that sequential process, even though we might be saying prayers and mantras and so forth, our practice is not going to be a pure Dharma practice.
As these are the Samjatam Jedunga the Tanduki Sambati, Namjuti, the D and the Tevachimbi Chu Zawa. The Dindri that Tevachimbi Chu the Kandis Yamne Chegore said. The Denisonga, the Danas Kevachimbi Lamji Rimbala, Lo Jambala Sums, taking Jugo, Semge Kona Demba, Sem the Chedriki with Sul, Sem Kenny Jobala Lobsolos.
And therefore, the recognition of the equality of all sentient beings in them seeking happiness and wanting to avoid suffering and pain, that becomes the root of the Mahayana Dharma practice. So Dhamma Tsongkhapa summarizes this section in saying there are three points concerning the training of the mind in the states of the path of persons of great capacity. How generating the mind of enlightenment is the only gateway to the Mahayana, that's the first point. Second is how how to generate that mind. And the third is how to train in the conduct after generating the mind.
jugo kani nyamnas tela jave parjen da ngaji tikchen ni sonji tele shembe tikchen medo teni kangi gor jugya jugo ne chanjugi sem kona inde tegula kebana jen kanya ma gekya tikchen bar jola teda nam travana toni toba soji yonde jiyegya nyente la sobe sar honshi tikchen le nyamba tewa chimbi jon toma le sonshi
When we begin with the first point that reads how generating the mind of enlightenment is the only gateway to the Mahayana, Lama Tsongkhapa says that it is necessary to enter the Mahayana. Think about how it is to be entered. There is no great vehicle apart from the Paramitayana and Mantrayana taught by the victor. Whichever of the two you may enter, the only gateway is bodhicitta. Whenever this has arisen in the mind, even though nothing else has arisen, one is considered a Mahayanist, whereas whenever one is separated from it, whatever excellent qualities one may have, such as the realization of emptiness and so forth, one will fall to the level of the Shravaka and the like, and fall from the Mahayana. Then it says, this is taught in the numerous texts of the Mahayana. It is also established by reasoning. Therefore, whether one is a Mahayanist is determined by whether one has this mind. So then if you think about it in terms of, for example, entering into a certain building through a gateway, through a door, the door to the Mahayana is bodhicitta. And therefore, Lama Tsongkhapa summarizes this point in saying, therefore, whether one is a Mahayanist is determined by whether one has this mind, bodhicitta.
Oh, there, that Chanju Sam, Chida, that could Geshe Karina, that Jab Chogras, and the Jab Chor, the Inaya, and a Hong give Tambuchoki. Chanju Samlea, only non tending it, Chanju Samlea, Nani dinging, and give Tambuchogi, and a song to Soti, Yan J, and D$, some of that, and D$, Malam Jabina, and Chilab Cuba Dragio Samaris, Chipile, Chanju Samle, Yamu Mengi, Kazus, Siwji Shin, Dedevania, and Simjinki, Semlea, Pento Choma. Only Yamu Yangi, and Man Dorduji Sheshavati, Pento Cheva. That the Menga singing Rodan Tindiji Yashiyadam Yosaris, Tiji.
So then in terms of what bodhicitta is, what the mind of enlightenment is, then you get an explanation of that in scriptures. So we have great masses of the past, those great beings who had developed an experiential knowledge of bodhicitta. They came to possess bodhicitta in their own mind stream. And they composed texts explaining what bodhicitta is. So we can read those texts, we can think about them, we can make aspirations and so forth. And through that, we get something with respect to, we get an understanding or something with respect to what bodhicitta is. Whereas you may get an explanation of what bodhicitta is from someone that hasn't developed an experience of bodhicitta. So even if that person will give you an extensive explanation, without them having developed an experience of bodhicitta, the benefit that you will get from that would be smaller. Or you can get just an abridged, summarized explanation of what bodhicitta is from someone that has developed an experience of bodhicitta, and you get a great benefit from that. This is the value of instructions for practice, those oral instructions.
데르디즈다 게 지슈난 디도스라 angema tanda anilaji gi ngala ya janjuk sem gi deshi go do nganzu migla ya jar go dos ngala tsar mangbu tesons ro tsar mang ina yang yue ba yin yue khansana ngone tane gi janjuk sem ya ngani dengi kono lama tembi jansen gi song changsang ji migla ya ani digyores ro ta telel la ji gi ani ngodroje ani ngala ya keke shuyame mixe til 샴바지 트리니 텔 자르바이나야 고바캬바친 키 통마송스 안 학도인데 겨울무치리 먼저 쳐줘다고 라마 이시리 군주 송딘데 기지 자르고바이나 딘디지 자르자로치스 아도 믹세 티톨아야 겨울무치 셴무 슈요레 송 첼럽진 디요레 다 딩안주 델야 자르니 팽게면은 샴바지 트리닝 안줄이야 펜도야와진 통마송 딘나로치스라.
So then in terms of getting a succinct explanation of what bodhicitta is, a couple of years ago, we fulfilled one of Lama Zopa's requests or advice to the center, which was to create a signage on the stairs leading up from the car park to the cafe with verses extracted from Kunu Lamrim, Rinpoche's presentation of bodhicitta, his commentary to the Mind of Enlightenment. So for those of you, I think that most of you, if not all of you, have seen those signs coming up from the car park to the cafe and even to the Nalanda Master's garden with verses taken from Kunu Lamrim, Rinpoche's text. So there was a nun that approached Geshe before, and she asked him a few times to also maybe provide an explanation of bodhicitta so that we can also create a sign in a way leading out from the car park, because she said that actually when people come up and they read those signs explaining the benefits of bodhicitta, it is likely that many of them will not know what bodhicitta is. So they will have this vague understanding of what those signs mean. So then she asked Geshe about it a few times, and Geshe, you can say that he postponed in replying to a request, and he thought that when you think of giving a succinct explanation of what bodhicitta is, and for it to be beneficial, then rather than him coming up with an explanation, someone that hasn't developed an experience of bodhicitta, it's better to have it for someone that has developed an experience of bodhicitta. So you can say that there's no better introduction, no greatest purpose that is fulfilled when you look at the explanation that great beings like His Holiness the Dalai Lama had or Lama Geshe gave. So Geshe thought that actually if we have their explanation of what bodhicitta is, then that could be of benefit. Otherwise, Geshe felt that there wouldn't be much purpose or much need for someone like him to give an explanation of what bodhicitta is.
어디리다 딘자 단델레레니 ngalaya thyotan keren titolan deshi jawarsana ngi nimman dawat tuni she guchona ya jasjada mangi kalija thugres shegres ro mado bigilaya gojangala jayadi jawrumji son tangaran di tang telhaji meba tungaza jasjiwa shwali son jonjugore kunlamurumji son tan jonjugun jawati sikji tolayo yut ta dinji toni kogormada and samang as we tin jadde the yungmarasra.
So of course, if you ask Geshe to give an explanation or teachings on bodhicitta, teachings that will be given over days or even over a few months, of course Geshe can do it. But then in terms of, if you want to get a really succinct explanation in just a couple of lines, you can say that there's no one that can do it better than His Holiness Dalai Lama. Or when you look at the writings of Shantideva, you can come to see that that is also the case. No one can say it better than they can.
그러나 대들 전주les 샘데 깨마타도 자스순조 손라 다 자위세스 땅안지 아니 차체스 쳐버스하겠다 아니 비기 딱 갸위 좋은 거 손대야기 아니 갸위 세디 가도 결과를 공도 손비기 잔주부 샘생인데 아니 랑귤이야 수 렌토바나 아니 갸위 세 수저버레스
So if you wonder, when do you become a bodhisattva? It says, the entering the bodhisattva way of Shantideva's guide to bodhisattva way of life says that as soon as this mind has arisen, you become a child of the victors.
장빈 넘버 타월레자 리기보 다다디 페나 도저름 붙인 차자 세기gen 캐버도 파워 탐지 시기 능시 도저름 붙인 미야 못돌라 오와 탐지gen 넘버 도고 리기보 대신도 탐지 캠바 샘기비 도저름 붙인 내던다 차양 년도당 랑산지기 용den기 세기gen 탐지 시기 능시 장주 샘비 미야 못돌라 거기 우와 탐질레야 넘버 도고시 저발라 말럽냐 샘디요나 장주 샘바 송송.
Likewise, the life of Maitreya says, child of the lineage, it is like this. For example, even a broken precious diamond outshines all good jewelry, however refined. It does not lose its name diamond and still averts all poverty. Child of the lineage, likewise, the precious diamond that is the mind generation from Nisans, even without effort, outshines all the gold jewelry that is the excellent qualities of the Shravakas and Prateka Buddhas. The name Bodhisattva is not lost, and all the misfortunes of cyclic existence are averted. That's all. So we will leave the text here for today. Let's do the final Lamrim dedication together. For my two collections, fastest space, they have amassed from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time. May I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds, wisdom, eyes blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all lives, Manjushri. May I find the best of complete graded parts of the teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by my practice. Using skillful means strong by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings, with the point of the path as I've discerned it. May I uphold Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread, or once spread have declined, may I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace. May the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time by even this graded path of enlightenment, completed due to the wondrous, virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. May all humans and non-human beings eliminate adversity and create conducive conditions for practicing the excellent paths, never departed in any of the lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may he always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere. Thank you.